Is it time for the Boston Red Sox to cut ties with starting pitcher Lucas Giolito after another horrific outing?
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. The best part, it's free. So it really doesn't cost anything at all, and you're not really losing out on anything. So you might as well continue to check out because Locked On is your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Happy Friday. Welcome to the show. The Red Sox were off yesterday, so it truly does make for a better and even happier Friday because we didn't have to watch them lose. And I hate to say that, but that's been the general mood and vibe lately with this team is when they're off, it's a win for us because they can't lose. And I wish we didn't have to say that at this point in the season in June. There really just has been nothing but frustration this season as a whole so far. Lots of guys not performing at the level that they should be. I'm going to be talking a little bit about one of those players on today's show and Lucas Giolito, as well as a little bit of the tension between Craig Breslow and Rafael Devers, because things clearly don't seem to have cooled down at all with that. And I'm going to be providing some injury updates. So one of the biggest concerns with this Red Sox team right now is starting pitching. Their starters not being able to provide the depth that they need to provide and the length that they need to provide. They are not going 5 innings a lot of the times. And one of those pitchers who has been part of that problem is Lucas Giolito, who got absolutely rocked in the Red Sox 11-9 walk-off win against the Angels on Wednesday. He's very lucky that the Red Sox offense was able to continue to come back in the way that they did, because he only made it through 1 2/3 innings in that outing, giving up 8 hits and 7 earned runs in that time. So after the first inning, when he gave up 4 runs, I said, okay, maybe this is just him trying to work some things out. It was a daytime start, so maybe his routine was thrown off and he just needs to warm up a little bit. And the first inning was just a fluke. Hopefully he comes back in and he's able to settle down. Nope, that did not happen. The Red Sox did respond immediately by scoring 5 runs in the bottom of the inning, but then he came back in the second inning and gave up 3 more runs. So ultimately he got pulled after 1 2/3, and that was just not ideal because then Alex Cora had to use a bunch of guys out of the bullpen. They ended up throwing 8 pitchers in that game. And it's just not ideal to have to use that many pitchers in a game because it just doesn't bode well for your next series, regardless of the fact that the Red Sox had an off day yesterday. Just lots of guys being overworked in that bullpen. And that's something that has been a consistent issue, and the starters not being able to go deep enough into games. So that was definitely a frustrating outing from Giolito. He's relying on 4 pitches right now: his 4-seamer, his changeup, his slider, his curveball. In terms of usage, 45.4% of the time he relies on the 4-seamer, 27.4% of the time he relies on the changeup, 23.9% he relies on the slider, and 3.4% he relies on the curveball. The fastball and changeup are continuously the 2 pitches that he uses the most. However, after he got rocked in one of his outings at home earlier this season, when he was only really relying on those 2 pitches, he has since started to work the slider in more because he knows that it's not sustainable to just be able to utilize 2 pitches. But he's still getting rocked pretty consistently on these pitches. It's just been really frustrating to watch because I was rooting for Giolito early on in the season. I said, I love his attitude. He's really excited to be here. Now he's healthy. So hopefully we can get a strong version of him now that he's back. But that has certainly not been the case here. And it's just been an absolute roller coaster of a season for him. So Obviously, he deserved a grace period early on in the season because he did miss all of last year with an internal brace procedure on his UCL. So obviously, we have to say, okay, we should give him some time and he deserves some patience. But how much patience does he need? Because this is now 7 starts into his tenure with this team, and he really hasn't shown any signs of figuring it out. He's currently 1-1 with a 6.42 ERA on the season and 27 strikeouts to 11 walks. This is obviously still a relatively young season, and he does have more than enough time to regain his confidence and everything, but it feels unlikely that he will rediscover his prime form from 2019 to 2021. Not that I necessarily thought we were going to get that from him, and we don't even really need that. We don't need that guy who finished 6th, 7th, and 11th in consecutive Cy Young votes, but they absolutely do need more from him, especially when it comes to length and consistency. He needs to try to avoid meltdown starts like he had on Wednesday and start to throw a little bit better. And whether that means he changes his routine if it's a daytime start so that he can feel more prepared for those, or he does something with his arsenal to be able to adjust. Something needs to be done in order to get him on track with where he needs to be for this Red Sox team. And on the season so far this year, he hasn't really pitched that deep into his starts generally. His first start of the season with the Red Sox was on April 30th after he had recovered from the IL and came back up. And in that outing, he threw 6 innings, giving up 5 hits and 3 earned runs. Then his next outing on May 6th, he threw 3 2/3, giving up 6 earned runs over 10 hits. Then he threw on May 11th 6.2 innings with 2 hits and 1 earned run. That was a really solid outing from him against the Royals. Then he threw on May 17th against the Braves, and in that game he threw just 4 innings, giving up 6 hits and 6 earned runs. So another not ideal start from him. Then on May 24th, he threw 7 innings, giving up 6 hits, but no earned runs. And the Red Sox ended up losing a tight game there, but overall he looked solid. Then again on May 30th, 4 2/3 innings, giving up 5 hits and 1 earned run, and then all leading up to the meltdown on Wednesday. So overall, 3.2, 4, 4.2, 1.2. Those outings need to be longer because it's not really fair to the Red Sox bullpen to expect them to have to save the day and come into games earlier because the starters can't go that deep. So he needs to figure that out. He needs to go deeper. When you look at some of his numbers in 2025 on the season, he has a 10.7% strikeout to walk ratio. His walk percentage is 7.3% and his strikeout percentage is 18.0%. His command has not always been all there, and he truly has been all over the place because the starts that he's on, he's truly on, and he's generating lots of swings and misses, and he's placing the ball in the right spots. But his velo is definitely not where it needs to be, and he's also not placing the ball in the right spots on his off-speed pitches, and it's allowing hitters to adjust during the at-bat, and it's allowing them to crush the ball against him. So obviously things that he still needs to work on. He's very poor when it comes to that strikeout percentage, not generating lots of swings and misses, not generating lots of whips either. The fastball velo is in the 29th percentile. So lots of things still that need to be worked on with Lucas Giolito. The biggest problem that I see with him overall is that when he is in the middle of throwing to a hitter, he doesn't really know as much how to say, okay, I'm going to use my most confident pitch right now versus, oh, he probably knows I'm going to throw my most confident pitch right now, so I'm just going to settle for throwing my slider, even if I might not have that today, and hope that he doesn't hit it. It almost feels like there's that mentality inside of him of, I can't throw my best pitch right now because I feel like the hitter is going to know that I'm utilizing that pitch. So I feel like mentally he needs to change his approach a little bit in terms of his pitch selection and when he's using each of those 3 pitches. And he needs to figure out a routine of how am I going to get my fastball velo up a little bit more. It's definitely been a concern do the Red Sox figure something out where they drop him? Do they DFA him? Do they just eat the money they're paying him and just put him on the bench? Lots of questions that you could ask. Giolito should not be in this rotation anymore if he makes one more start like the one he had on Wednesday. I understand the Red Sox don't want to give up on him right now, but they cannot allow it to go more than one more start before they figure out something with him, because he just feels all over the place, and it's getting to the point where his command is not there and he's not locking in and hitting his pitches. So I'll be talking a little bit more about that coming up next. But first, I know coffee is an absolute lifesaver for a lot of us. I know for myself too. It's not just a drink, it's actually a lifeline and truly the thing that gets you from half asleep to fully functioning. And I literally need it for my workday. I don't know what I would do without it. Trade Coffee is the place for you to get all of your coffee. It's the #1 coffee destination in the US, delivering fresh, incredible coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Whether you're a cold brew fan or a pour over purist, they've got a roast you'll love. I took Trade's quiz, which only took literally a minute, and the first bag they sent me was spot on. So they really try to match you with the coffee that's right for you. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our customer 50% off your 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/lockedonmlb. That's TRADE.com/lockedonmlb for 50% off your 1-month trial. I have so many friends who are addicted to coffee, and they have been purchasing things like it's nobody's business. So I highly recommend it. It will save your life and it will be that thing that gets you through the day. I promise you 100% you will not be let down. So Lucas Giolito has had several meltdowns this season in starts where he just really doesn't have it. And that has been mixed with a few good starts, but overall, he doesn't really have a good sense of the strike zone. He's not able to really gain command. And if he's in an outing in which he doesn't have the strike zone, he's not going to be able to get it back. And that's a problem, is you either get a really good version of him or a really bad version of him. And his off-speed pitches are not always delivering in the way that they should be. And the problem with his fastball is that the velo is not fast enough, so opposing hitters are taking it deep and crushing that pitch. So what needs to happen with Giolito exactly? He and Andrew Bailey need to work on his usage a little bit. When exactly he's going to utilize certain pitches. He's only really relying on 4 pitches right now, primarily 3 of those with a 4th one thrown in there every once in a while. But the problem, I believe, is that he's not executing those pitches at the right times, and something needs to be done about that. Will the Red Sox decide we need to move on from Giolito, or will they decide we want to continue to work with him and give him the opportunity to really deliver and turn things around? Knowing the way that the Red Sox have operated all season, I would not be surprised if it's the latter and they say, okay, let's give him another shot in this rotation to turn things around. I feel like his leash should be incredibly tight. One more start. If he has another meltdown in one more start, then the Red Sox really need to have some serious conversations about his spot on the roster and if it makes sense to keep him in the rotation or not. I feel badly for the guy because of his injury history, but he is not performing at the level the Red Sox need him to. He knows that. He's not executing and he's not getting the job done on a consistent basis, and it's really helping the rotation. So that's something that's been a big issue with this Red Sox team, is Giolito, but also the rotation as a whole. But another thing that's been an issue is the Rafael Devers drama with not switching positions. And Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow kind of gave a telling non-answer on the whole situation yesterday. So obviously, people looking at the situation can say, okay, both Rafael Devers and the Red Sox front office have probably handled this situation poorly. The front office should have communicated everything to Devers well in advance about the possibility of him moving off of third base, because they were exploring third base options in the offseason. And then when they got Bregman and he was blindsided by moving to DH, then he finally got used to playing DH, and Breslow comes to him again and says, can you play first base? And he feels like he doesn't want to do that because he's feeling used by the organization and discouraged. So I do get all of that. From a front office perspective, they probably felt like he would respond to things a little bit better. So clearly there's tension and miscommunication, and Craig Breslow gave a pretty telling answer about it yesterday. So he was talking and he was asked if he was refusing to address Devers or if he was frustrated at all by Devers's refusal to play defense and try to help his team at all costs. It really was a non-answer that he gave, but it truly did speak volumes. He said, I think best to keep that opinion to myself and in conversations between Rafi and me. Obviously, he's put in a really tough spot there because if he says that he's frustrated, it's the source of every headline in town for the next couple days, probably, of, wow, the front office is frustrated with Devers, season's over, there's, no chemistry there, it's bad. But on the flip side, if he says he's completely fine with what Devers has done, then he'll get accused of being completely spineless and indecisive, and people will say, wow, Breslow has an inability to recognize when there's problems with this team. So it's a really hard question to answer. And he was trying to be political in the best way possible, trying to be politically correct and trying to say, look, that's not something that I'm going to talk about here publicly. That's between Rafi and I. So you can obviously put into speculation how he was feeling about that. It could have meant truly, genuinely, we've had conversations internally. You don't really need to know what those are. Or it could have meant, I'm not talking about those conversations here. They weren't good conversations. I am annoyed with him. I just don't want to say that publicly. Devers has kind of expressed his opinions publicly on the front office by basically saying he wasn't communicated with, and he's upset with the way that the organization has handled these things when it comes to asking him to move positions. So he has not been shy about it. But Breslow, on the other hand, because part of that is a PR tactic, and I think that's something that people need to understand a little bit more, is when somebody who is really high up within the organization gets asked a question, they can't really give certain answers. And I know this because I've spoken with people around the Red Sox organization that are around the team every day and are a big part of what the Red Sox do. And there have been certain questions that they have straight up not been able to answer because of the whole rule with PR. So you have to remember and understand that there are certain things that Breslow cannot address because he was told not to. So when you look at that situation, how does Breslow really feel about it? Because if he is internally annoyed with Devers, I agree those are conversations that should happen behind closed doors. But how exactly does he go about it? Does he say, hey, we know that we handled things poorly before, but now we have some key injuries on this team, so we really need you to step up and play a different position. I know it's not ideal right now, but it's temporary. Or he just lets Devers continue to DH because he has been hitting well this season and tries to ease the tension that way by not addressing the situation anymore. But it definitely sounds like there is still tension there between Devers and Breslow. It doesn't really seem to be affecting the rest of the team's chemistry with each other, at least from what I understand and what I'm hearing. It seems like the locker room vibes overall are still pretty good. It's just a matter of a front office versus Devers situation. And that's a little bit scary because Devers is the franchise player here. He's the guy the Red Sox extended recently and made a point to say, we want you here, because that type of extension truly does make a statement saying, hey, by the way, you are our guy, you are our franchise player, and you are the guy we are going to continue to build this team around. And that is great. If you're Rafael Devers, that's a good feeling to have as well. This organization really values me being here. And if I'm him, I am a little bit disappointed in the way that this whole situation was handled and feeling a little bit like a slap in the face of feeling like, wow, does this organization not value me as much? They just want to put me wherever. They don't want to see me excel in the position that I'm in. So there's definitely a weird relationship for sure going on right now between Breslow and Devers. There's just some disconnect there, and they are not on the same page, clearly. Obviously, they're not going to trade Devers because he is the franchise player. But this is something to keep in mind, is that there's probably going to have to be some kind of repairing of this relationship here, because if Devers is going to spend the rest of his career in Boston, would the front office really want there to be tension there in the long run? I'm not thinking they do. And it's just a tough look for them if Devers continues to express frustration in the front office, which they've already gotten backlash about based on some of the comments that Devers has made. And if he gets incredibly frustrated, then he might say, I want out. I don't want to be here anymore. And how scary would it be if our franchise player decides to say, oh, yeah, I'm good. I'll pass. I don't want to be here anymore because this organization doesn't treat me the right way. We definitely want to try to ease that tension a little bit and help Devers feel as welcomed as he can with the Boston Red Sox. Regardless of whether you agree or disagree with him refusing to switch positions, he is the franchise player. We have to do what he can to make him feel valued. So hopefully Breslow thinks about that situation and is able to start to repair the relationship or prove to Devers that he really values his presence on this team. But coming up, I'm going to be giving some injury updates to really valuable players for this team that they could truly use right now. So every morning, my husband sits down at the kitchen table and he pulls up FanDuel and he places his bets for the day. He has a little spreadsheet of what games are going on in every sport for that day. And then he decides what it makes sense to bet on. And FanDuel has given him lots of money because of bets that he has hit on. So if you are looking to make money through sports betting, FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. I'm telling you, FanDuel is a cheat code. It's a great way to win lots of money. I've seen my husband do it, and you can do it too. The Boston Red Sox have had such a frustrating season this year. And from a fan base perspective, we just want to see them succeed and we just want to see them perform well. And that just hasn't happened a whole lot this year. And the tension between Rafael Devers and Craig Breslow has certainly played a part in that. At the end of the day, Devers is the franchise player. We all know we would not want to lose him, especially with how well he's been hitting this year. And he has truly been that key bat in the lineup that the Red Sox need. And at the end of the day, you can be upset with Devers for refusing to switch positions because, yes, it is kind of a bad look and it looks like you're being a bad teammate, especially when you hear of other players around the league being willing to switch positions and do what's best for the team. Like Mookie, for example, switched to playing in the infield because it was best for the Dodgers and that's where they needed him to play. He didn't argue or complain about it. He just said, yep, I'm going to play where the team needs me to play. So if you notice that, that's the attitude you want your franchise player to have. And Devers has kind of been lacking that. And Craig Breslow and the way he handled the situation certainly didn't help with that. So definitely need to try to mold that relationship and fix it before things get too bad and escalate to the point where Devers just gets super frustrated and says, I want out. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has contemplated that a little bit because of the team's struggles this season. Part of that does have to do with injuries that the Red Sox have had, and they are hopefully expecting to get some of these guys back soon. Obviously not Triston Casas with a ruptured patellar tendon in his left knee. He is not expected to return until 2026. On June 3rd, he did speak to the media for the first time since his injury and said he has heard different timetables, but none of them are longer than a year. So his hope is to play on opening day in 2026. Really sad situation, but if he just continues to work over the course of these next few months, hopefully he can feel confident that going into spring training, he'll be ready for opening day. Kutter Crawford, his injury is a right patellar soreness, and he's been out for a while. Has not been able to play yet this year. His expected return date right now is July. He was set to start a minor league rehab assignment this week, but those plans are now on hold as he is experiencing some minor soreness in his right wrist. He will be examined by Boston's medical staff in the coming days. Alex Cora talked about it too. he said basically that it's something that the Red Sox are monitoring and they're hoping for the best there with him after he hears this update. Alex Cora said he has some wrist pain. That was 2 days ago. Hopefully nothing serious. So they just want to check on him. So they didn't seem like overly concerned about it, but it's definitely something to keep in mind because as he's trying to look to come back, it could be something that keeps him sidelined for a little bit more. Then you have Nick Birdie, who was just placed on the IL on June 3rd with a right foot contusion. His expected return is June 18th at the earliest. He was in a collision with a runner at first base while trying to field an errant throw from teammate Romy Gonzalez on June 2nd. His injury is not serious. It's just a temporary thing. So he is on the IL for right now, but will likely be back very soon in the next couple weeks. Alex Bregman, right quad strain. May 24th was when he was placed on the IL. His expected return right now is not until July or August. He is starting to feel better and is responding well to treatment. And that's definitely good to think about, but they still don't have a timetable that's really in the near future. Cora did mention that he's getting treatment and feeling better. It's good to see him around, obviously helping everybody, but in good spirits. So it was a good week for him. So it's good because he definitely still has the right attitude. He's still staying positive despite the fact that his situation is unfortunate and that he has been hurt. But he's been milling around the clubhouse, helping the young guys still and serving as that true mentor that we knew he could be early on. But July or August right now is the return date for him. Masataka Yoshida, who the Red Sox have been very weird about giving updates on all season long. Right shoulder labrum tear for him. March 27th, he was placed on the IL, and then he was transferred to the 60-day IL on May 22nd. His expected return right now is July at the earliest. He is making progress again with his throwing program and has increased intensity while playing catch at 75 feet. He had been at 120 feet prior to being shut down in late April. So that situation is definitely very weird. Part of me thinks that it's in part due to the fact that they don't really know where they would put him when he comes back because there isn't really a clear-cut spot for him on the roster right now. So it seems like they're not really in a rush to bring him back because they don't really know exactly where he would play. So that's going to be an interesting situation. If he's ready to be activated and the Red Sox have no clue where he fits in, I wonder how they're going to handle that situation. But I do think part of the reason they haven't given a lot of updates on him is because of that, because they're still trying to figure out where it makes sense to slot him in. Justin Slayton, who is experiencing right shoulder inflammation, he was placed on the IL on June 1st, and he's expected June 13th at the earliest to come back. The ace setup man is experiencing shoulder fatigue and hopes he'll be fine to return after serving the minimum 15 days on the IL. So he is not expected to be gone for a long period of time either, which is huge because the Red Sox do really need him in this bullpen. He has been a key reliever for them. And like I've mentioned before, it puts Alex Cora in a tough spot of having to use other relievers that might not necessarily be as reliable when normally that's a spot that Slayton would pitch in. So that's not really Cora's fault. It just kind of is what it is, but hopefully he'll be back soon. Liam Hendriks, right hip inflammation, placed on the IL on May 30th. His expected return is June 13th at the earliest. He has been having symptoms similar to a sports hernia injury. The Red Sox hope his time off is minimal. The earliest he's eligible to return is the opener of that 3-game home series next week versus the Yankees. So the Red Sox will reevaluate at that point to kind of see where he's at. Tanner Houck, right flexor pronator strain, placed on the IL on May 14th. His expected return is late June/early July. He continues to play catch, but he hasn't thrown off the mound since going on the IL. So he definitely still has time before his return, which might be for the best because he really needs to get right. I mean, he was getting absolutely rocked on the mound, and he needs to figure out mechanically what he can do better when he comes back. And hopefully when he comes back, he can truly be better than ever as a reliable starting pitcher. Left-handed pitcher Chris Murphy, who underwent Tommy John surgery on April 10th of last year. So his expected return is after the All-Star break. It's a long recovery from that. He's set to head to High A Greenville to potentially begin working towards a rehab assignment. So still a ways to go for him, but they knew that. That's just part of the recovery process, but hopefully he'll be able to get closer and closer to rehab assignments so he can return to this team. Patrick Sandoval, who's recovering from a left UCL injury, was placed on the IL on February 15th. His expected return is possibly sometime after the All-Star break as of right now. His status was dubbed the Machine by manager Alex Cora for his work ethic, and he has reached an important step in his return from surgery, throwing off the mound in recent days. So he's definitely taking baby steps towards getting back, but they're hoping that he's available to pitch in the second half of the season because he could be a huge help either in a longer relief role or maybe potentially as a starter if you have a guy like Lucas Giolito, who I talked about earlier on in the show, who continues to struggle. If he's still struggling at that point, maybe they experiment with Sandoval in the rotation. But either way, they do hopefully have some guys starting to head towards coming back. Kutter Crawford also, that's a promising one. If he can come back for the Red Sox, that could be a huge help for this rotation too, because then that's a guy who you could replace Giolito with in the rotation. And I don't mean to knock on Giolito. I think he's a great guy with a great personality and was really excited to be in Boston. It's just that he needs to fix something mechanically with that arsenal. He's releasing the ball at a point where the opposing hitters have time to adjust to the pitch before they hit it. And that's concerning. So something needs to be done to address that. Andrew Bailey, I'm looking at you. But hopefully the Red Sox can turn things around. And I obviously don't feel super confident in that. But like I always say, continue to keep the faith because they will need us to. Also, I appreciate you tuning into Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen. Next, be sure to check out MLB Game Night on YouTube or any other podcast platform on the Locked On MLB channel. It's a show that gets you caught up in all the games that happened that day and that night so that you don't have to scroll through Twitter and check your scores. You can hear it all from our Locked On experts. Make sure you check that out next. Go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.